What's up guys, it's me Jeremy, and when it comes to solo queue especially, transitions are one of the hardest things to do due to the level of teamwork required to execute them, and often certain phases of the game last a lot longer or shorter than you might want them to, and that can be avoided through transitions. Let's get started. Alright, so throughout the game, you're going to experience two types of transitions: the early to mid game transition and the mid to late game transition. Knowing how and when to perform a transition will dictate who comes out on top at the beginning of the next phase of the game. A correctly performed transition outmaneuvers your opponent and will give you a solid advantage. Let's go over the early to mid game transition first. Alright, so a mid game transition is how the laning phase ends. These plays are pretty much just events that you can look back on and say at that moment was when the laning phase ended. So because of this, you want to perform a mid-game transition when you want the laning phase to end. Maybe you have bad matchups, maybe your team has a strong mid-game, or maybe you're just losing the laning phase. Regardless, ending the laning phase can be a great way to catch up or gain a lead. In general, a mid-game transition is when you as a team group as 4 or usually 5 and make a play for a major objective, which will usually be a massive gank for a tower, and usually it will be the mid tower. As a dragon play usually won't really end the laning phase, and it's too early in the game for a baron play anyways. Towers are key objectives that affect the length of the laning phase, as laning is risky when your tower is down. So when a side takes a tower, that will often take a step forward in ending the laning phase, especially if it's the mid tower, since that leaves so much room for map control and pressure. But by doing that as a team out of nowhere, you can often secure a couple of kills, and if the opponents are slow to respond, you can take 1, 2, or even 3 towers sometimes, which is absolutely huge. Taking down mid tower will allow you to transition into controlling the map, and staying grouped as a team from there on out to push for more and more objectives, effectively transitioning into the mid game. The first major group in a game, which is this mid game transition, is always very important, as if it's not dealt with properly, it can be devastating. Now the second transition is the mid to late game transition. This type of transition is a little bit harder to control, as it's not exactly something that happens proactively. But in general, in the mid game, teamfights consist of strong initiations and massive burst damage. But once people start to get a bunch of items, they get tanky, and so you can't just focus any old target with your burst damage anymore. Late game generally happens when your teamfights go from wanting to crowd control and burst down opponents to trying to kite for and protect your AD carry, or assassinating your opponent's AD carry. So because of this, the late game transition is more of a shift in playstyle during teamfights rather than a play that your team makes. Usually you don't want to make this transition until your AD carry has at least 3 to 4 offensive items, as otherwise they might not do enough damage to be worth protecting if they have only 2 items, whereas if they have 4 items, they can pretty much just kill everyone if left unchecked. So teamfights become all about the AD carries at this point in the game. So just be aware of the current game state, as I see a lot of late game fights being lost because people are still stuck playing like it's the mid game and don't change their teamfight playstyle properly. Anyways, my name is Jeremy, and that's it for my video on transitions. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to check out some of my others on the screen right now, or stay connected at facebook.com/gamingcurios. I'd love if you could support me with a like, and make sure to subscribe for some more awesome content in the future if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.